So we know that gold prices have been marching steadily higher. They hit record highs this week, but silver hasn't been doing too badly either. It is up about 50% in the past year. Our guest is happy to see that. We're joined by Mitchell Krebs, CEO at Coeur Mining, which just finalized the takeover of Silvercrest Metals. Great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks a lot for having me.
Just remind us, where do you fit into the silver industry? For example, how much in value right now would silver account for of your revenue?
Yeah, well, with the Silvercrest acquisition, that amount now goes up on a percentage basis. This year, about 40% of our revenue will come from silver and the rest from gold. So that's up from 25 to 30% over the last few years.
Is that a thing you've done deliberately to be known as a silver play?
It is, yeah. You know, the company has almost a 100-year history. It's sort of known as a silver company. Over the last several years, the gold proportion of our revenue has climbed up. But as we've seen the fundamentals for silver continue to strengthen, we've been very deliberate about trying to gain more silver exposure at a time here where there's just a real shortage of the metal. With demand increasing, there's been a lack of investment in new supply. There's been several years now of deficits each year, and with the explosion of first solar demand and now just overall electronics demand, we wanted to have the company more positioned into silver to take advantage of what we think is a really dynamite time to have more silver exposure for our shareholders.
Can you just remind us, Silvercrest, you issued stock in that acquisition. What percent of the company did the Silvercrest investors end up owning?
They ended up with 38% of the combined company.
So that was a big deal then. That was, you must have thought, it was a large transaction in terms of the future of the company.
Big deal for us, the biggest in our history. There's a real, the word scarcity comes to mind in a lot of ways around the silver market. There's a scarcity of quality silver producing assets in the world, and Silvercrest had one of those in its Las Chispas operation down there in Mexico, and as a result, we paid almost $1.7 billion in all stock to create what we think is now a real kind of world-leading silver company. Our production this year will be close to 20 million ounces of silver. It was 11 last year, and part of that is because of the Las Chispas addition from Silvercrest, but we've been investing in a silver operation out in Nevada called Rochester to expand that, and this will be the first full year that will benefit from that investment as well. So it really propels us up in terms of overall silver production at what we think is just the right time.
Maybe we could put up a 5-year chart for your stock, CDE, because it hasn't been a great stock to own over the past 5 years. I know you were hot there in 2021, a bit like a tech stock, but then you slid for about 2 years. Why was that?
Yeah, mostly because of the heavy investment cycle that we've been going through to set ourselves up for what is just now starting to play out between expansions like the one in Nevada, which was a $730 million investment, which for a company our size is a big investment. We invested almost $300 million in exploration to extend mine lives, to add additional reserves and resources with a focus on adding higher grade material. That has been a real headwind during a period of time when gold and silver were, at least in the earlier part of that 5-year chart, we're having some challenging times. Our stock historically has outperformed when silver and gold have gone up and underperformed when silver and gold have gone down. Part of that is because of the leverage that our balance sheet has had. Some of that has been because of the higher costs. We're on the higher end of the cost curve. So we have real torque to the changes in metals prices. Silvercrest really helps us accelerate our transition away from some of those themes. Silvercrest's costs were about 40% lower than our average costs, and their balance sheet was pristine, no debt, and about almost $200 million of cash and bullion. And so that's going to allow us to really quickly de-lever the balance sheet after going through this heavy investment cycle.
Now, your company is part of U.S. mining history. Can you give us a clue? When did it originate, or what were the roots of Coeur?
Yeah, the roots are 1928. in Idaho, North Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, which is where the name comes from. It was in Idaho for many, many decades. Its first foray out of Idaho was to Nevada with the Rochester mine starting in the 70s. And that was its first growth outside of Idaho. So Rochester's been around for almost 35 years now. And it now has a new lease on life with this recent investment and expansion. And it's one of those mines that started up with a 5-year mine life, 35 years ago. And now here we are with a 16-year mine life out ahead of us with a lot more potential to add to it. Over the years, the company got kind of stretched around the globe. It had things in Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Tanzania, Australia. Over the last decade or so, we've really consolidated ourselves back to our backyard of North America only. So now we have 3 mines in the U.S. and 2 in Mexico with a project up in northern British Columbia. So our footprint we really like, and we'll stay focused on that now going forward.
Mind us, I'd forgotten you had a play in northern BC. So are you near production there, or what's that project called?
Well, it's called Silvertip. It's one of the highest grade silver, lead, zinc deposits anywhere in the world. It's a large system. We're in the process of drilling that to continue expanding it, to better understand it, to hopefully have that set up in the next 5 years or so as a potential next leg of growth for the company that would bring in even more silver production, higher grade, lower cost, higher margin silver production. But in the meantime, we're focused on finally getting ourselves back into free cash flow and delever the balance sheet. So if and when Silvertip is ready to be developed, we can pursue that from a position of strength.
Mitchell, thank you very much indeed. Great talking to you.
Thanks for having me. Have a good weekend.
You too. Mitchell Krebs, CEO at Coeur